Hello, it's me, CGD. The time is 22:01 UK time, um, the 10th of the 8th, 2010. Um, it's a bit difficult what to call this piece, other than a global tracking system that penetrates the Earth. Um, it's become quite apparent being hooked up to these satellites, no matter how many there are, that there's specific features that actually pertain to certain parts of the satellite or satellites, depending on whether they're using the ones of mass destruction and death penalties or other satellites which they use for communication or surveillance techniques. But one particular interesting story is every time I go to travel on the underground, I can still hear these voices. So these satellites are able to penetrate the Earth. So if I can hear the voices, then they're following me. They're actually able, with another satellite or facility from a satellite, to scan not only me, but the people on the underground. So if I look at someone, they say to me, "Do you fancy her?" And I go, "Grow up, will you? I mean, you're trying to kill me about do I fancy her?" What they're actually saying to themselves is, like, "Oh, we can see what she's got on, not just on the outside, but underneath. You know, they can see her underwear or whatever, whatever's in their pockets, purses, bags." And I'm supposed to be oblivious to all this. I'm supposed to be just looking at people and not taking all this in. But unfortunately for them, not only does this system allow them to attract people underground in England, it could be the metro in France or the equivalent in New York, anywhere basically. It's like a global tracker stuck on you, a physical one embedded in my head, so they can follow you around the world. And no matter where you go or where you hide, and whoever you talk to or see, they will know. So anyone who's hooked up to this won't necessarily be aware to start with until they start hearing the voices. But the period between hearing the voices and when the evidence that the prison officers are trying to claim they've got, you'll be very au fait, because like everything has to lead to something with these prison officers. Whether it's your initial family or contacts, it will lead to it. There's no bypass around this. The point is to gain an exchange. They want to extract information from your mind about criminality. In order to do that, they have to plant a seed of some description, a bit like an introduction to a book. You read the introduction and you get set up for the story of the book. Well, it's like that with them. It's like their guilty mind, guilty thoughts of using these files proves premeditation on their part of the prison officers. And they're trying to, how can I describe, deceive you, decept you into believing that you are in a hopeless situation. You might as well give up this information now, and point us in the direction of where they think so-called evidence might be hidden. But how would you know where the evidence is hidden? You can only pertain to your own affairs. You can't be responsible for anyone else's. So therefore, whatever so-called evidence HMP Brixton prisoners, prison officers have is absolutely worthless. You can't say one way or the other, but they try to manipulate you into saying so. It appears that way, so they can then deceive the police or law enforcement internationally and yourself to make you succumb to either a guilty plea or grassing up someone. That is the crux and the nuts and bolts of this operation. But it's not just done with me. This is satellites they use, unspecified amount. I can't even imagine how many. Originally I thought there were three, but there's a lot more involved in it. They're hijacking and getting into other satellites. They're actually computer hacking into satellites and using these facilities, and not only the satellites but the databases, and robbing information and storing it back on their computer system and their data. So if this goes to court, which it will do at some point, the evidence is very apparent and very obvious of how they've collated this information and how they've stored it, numerically, alphabetically, whatever encryption you want. But it's about a global tracking system as well as a global weapons of mass destruction and global death penalties. It's the tracking that's quite unique. I've never known anything like it that can penetrate the earth. This weapons of mass destruction is so powerful it could quite literally blow up the earth. I don't mean to be a scaremonger to the public, but that's a fact of life. Thank you.